Hello everybody, I'm Maxi. Welcome to another video about Chinese names. It has been a while since I published that video about how to compose a Chinese name. After publishing that one, I have been thinking about it. And the more I think, the more I realize maybe name is a completely different concept in different languages. For example, if you have been studying China's history or reading wuxia novels or watching wuxia dramas, you may have noticed that a person can be called by many different names, and it's not like that they go somewhere in disguise so they invent a fake name for themselves. It's like all those names are official names that everybody else recognizes. For example, Confucius can be called 孔子, 孔丘, 孔仲尼, 至圣先师, and several others more. And this is not like you have a first name and a middle name and you can introduce yourself with any one of them. All the names I just mentioned are official full names of him. So why is that? Okay, so first I need to talk about the Chinese translation of the word name. Nowadays, if you translate the word name into Chinese, usually you get 名字. That is exactly what we would tell you nowadays. When we refer to our names, we use the word 名字, 名字. But actually, traditionally, 名 and 字 are two different things. Every one of us has a 名, and that is the closest thing to the concept of a person's name in English. But then we can also have a 字, and that is also a name, and 名 and 字 are for different purposes. And there is not only these two kinds, there are actually three. We have 名, 字, 号, and this was common in the ancient times. Okay, so today let me explain what they are and what they are for and how they are used. So first, 名. This one is the most by default one, and nowadays it's our formal names. This one is assigned to you by your parents or other elders in your family when you were born, and the elders in your family usually call you by this name. And this is usually the name you see a Chinese person put after our family name. And in the example of Confucius, his Ming is Qiu. His family name is Kong, so his basic full name is Kongqiu. This is Ming. This is the by default name nowadays. So if I stick to the strictest definition, when I introduce my name in Chinese, I shouldn't say my 名字, 名字. I should tell you my 名 is what. But as many of you who have studied some Chinese already know, modern Chinese usually use compound words with two or more syllables like 名字, 名字. So it has become a habit for us to say 名字 when we introduce our formal name. But actually what we tell you is our 名. Okay, the second kind is called 字. You get this name when you become an adult, and this name is for you to use outside in the society. Like Ming, you usually get this one from your parents or other elders in your family, and its meaning is usually related to your Ming. I'm not saying they usually express the same thing or have the same meaning. Many 字 were designed to be an annotation or supporting clue to the Ming. So maybe the Ming expressed some aspiration of the parents to the kids, but they couldn't express all their aspiration in the Ming. So when they later composed 字, they expressed the rest in the 字. Or it can also be that the Ming is too hard to understand. It requires a lot of explanation, so they use the 字 as the explanation. But it can also be that they just don't like the Ming, so they get a second chance to compose something new. Anyway, we used to get this kind of name called 字 when we become adult. And this one is also used after your family name to become a full name. So again, back to the example of Confucius. His 字 was 仲尼, so he also had a full name called 孔仲尼. And this used to be a standard practice among the intelligentsia families or rich families or aristocrats. When you become an adult, you go outside into the society and you use your 字 for others to call you. And people of the same generation or same level of any hierarchy usually call each other by their 字 instead of míng as a kind of courtesy. Like I said before in another video, we have a culture of not feeling comfortable hearing our original name, let alone the full name. So we invented a lot of ways to avoid saying someone's original name. And 字 here serves this purpose. I've seen some English text that translates it to courtesy name. I think it's appropriate. It's a name used for some kind of courtesy. Well, nowadays it's rare to see someone who has a 字. I don't have one. You may only see this in some families with some long, well-kept lineage, but even for them, this is only used among limited circles because nowadays your official name is your míng. You write your míng on all the official documents. Okay, the third kind is called hao. This is the most freestyle one, and you can have several different ones for different purposes. You can compose a hao for yourself, or it can be given to you by others. It used to be a common practice among the intelligentsias to compose hao for themselves. They use this to express their personality or aspiration or lifestyle or even philosophical thinking. For example, one of China's most famous poets, Li Bai, he had a hao called 青莲居士. The 居士 at the end is sort of a title here. It's common to see this title used in the intelligentsia's hao. Generally, you can understand it as hermit, and 青莲 here means green lotus. So crudely, this hao means green lotus hermit. As for why a lotus can be green, I'm not sure. Maybe it's still a bud. Anyway, that's how he called himself. This sounds ridiculous when I tried to explain it in English, but actually this one is quite good in Chinese. You can get the feeling that he means he wants to stay away from the dirty stuff of bureaucracy or things like that. Nowadays, you can also see some people who have their hao, especially the intelligentsias or people working in the culture-related industries. But it's not as common as the ancient times because nowadays, usually it makes people feel you are trying too hard to be posh. And if your work is not outstanding enough to support this, people usually laugh at it. But anyway, this used to be a thing and is still happening. And this is the most basic kind of hao. You compose one to express yourself. So back to the example of Confucius. He didn't have a hao that he composed for himself. It was not a thing yet in his time. He was really ancient. But he has a lot of haos that people in future ages crowned him with. I think the most commonly known one nowadays is 至圣先师. This one literally means the most enlightened teacher who came first. 至圣先师. I just realized how harsh the pronunciation sounds and not really pretty. You don't really think much about your mother tongue's pronunciation until you see it from another language. But anyway, that's a widely used name that people now address him with. And by the way, the most common way to call Confucius is 孔子, right? So which one is this? This one is actually neither of the three kinds we talked about. The 子 here is actually a title, an honor that people gave to the founder of a philosophical school of that ancient time. So 孔子actually means a 子 whose family name is Kong. That's 孔子. And that's where the word Confucius came from. Okay, back to talking about hao. The ones we just talked about are the most basic kind of hao. You just say this is a hao. And then besides this, you can also see some hao with another character before it to explain what the specific purpose of this hao is. For example, when a Buddhist becomes a monk, they get a name called 法号. I think English can translate this to Dharma name. This name is usually given by the mentor and is used to express some Buddhist philosophical thinking. For example, in the famous story of the journey to the West, the Monkey King is called Wukong, right? Wukong is his 法号. It's given by his mentor. And I guess many of you all know that he has a surname called Sun, so he has a full name called Sun Wukong. So this is how you use your hao. If your hao has a title at the end as 青莲居士, you use the hao alone as your whole name. But if your hao is composed in the same way as a ordinary name, like Wukong, you use it after your family name to become a whole name. That's how you use hao. Okay, another example. A Taoist gets a name called Dao Hao. I think we can translate this to Taoist name. It's also usually given by the mentor and is used to express some Taoist philosophical thinking. Has any one of you played a hit game last year called Wuchang Fallen Feathers? In the game, there is this Taoist villain called Xuan Yangzi. This name is a typical Dao Hao. This is a typical format for a Dao Hao. Again, the zi at the end is serving as a title. The Taoists also use it. And then Xuan Yang is where they are expressing their Taoist philosophy. Anyway, this is a typical Dao Hao. And then another typical kind of special purpose Hao is an emperor's Nian Hao. I think we can translate it to age name. An emperor would compose a name for the time of his reign to express his aspiration for the country during his reign. Most of the emperors in the Qing dynasty, the last dynasty, are known by their Nian Hao instead of their Ming. For example, Qianlong. If you watch C-dramas, you may have already seen him a lot. This emperor is usually referred to as Qianlong. Qianlong is his Nian Hao, not his Ming. And here Qian is an old fancy way to call the sky, and Long here means prosperity. So here you can vaguely see what he was trying to convey with this name. This is his Nian Hao. His actual Ming was Hongli. This one is much less well known than his Nian Hao. His basic full name was Aixinjueluo Hongli. You can judge by this family name that he is Manchu, but the later part, the Ming, is actually composed in the Han Chinese way. And talking about emperors, they don't only have their Nian Hao. After they die, people would also give them another name called Miao Hao. Miao is a way to say temple or shrine, so let's call this shrine name, because this is the name you write on the ancestral tablet in the ancestral hall. It's used for ceremony to perform rites, and Qianlong's Miao Hao is Gaozong. Zong is also sort of a title here. It's a root character to mean ancestor, and Gao means tall, high. So this is how usually a Miao Hao is composed. The first character tells your place in the sequence or is a description of the quality of your reign. And when you talk about an emperor's Miao Hao and the conversation is not clear which dynasty you are talking about, you add the name of the dynasty before the Miao Hao. For example, he is an emperor in the Qing dynasty, right? So the full version of him is Qing Gaozong. So in general, we have these three kinds of names. And culturally, we are used to use different names for different purposes. I guess this is one of the reasons why so many people in China are so okay with adopting an English name when talking with foreigners. Well, many of them are not English names, I know. When we were little, we used to think as long as a name is spelled with the Latin alphabet, it's an English name. Anyway, in my personal case, I feel much more comfortable using an English name when I speak English. I feel it sounds very unnatural to insert a Chinese name, a well-pronounced Chinese name in an English sentence. So it feels much easier to just use an English name. And that saves me a lot of trouble of trying to guide people to pronounce my Chinese name because it's hard to pronounce for many English speakers. And after all, the spelling alone without the correct tones and the correct characters are not really my Chinese name. And by the way, I don't plan to disclose my Chinese name here. Let's just remember me as Maxi, okay? I can tell you that my family name is Wang. Remember me as Maxi Wang. Okay, so that is today's video. Again, I hope it's helpful. And if you like it, if you like what I do, like, hype, share, comment, subscribe. And if you subscribe, remember to activate the little bell so you don't miss future videos. And if you are willing to support this channel financially, you can join my membership. There are some extra content and learning material in it. Anyway, thank you all for watching this far. I hope to see you in another video or a previous video. Bye bye.